told that they will be sent by today, right? So hopefully you will receive the abstract on emails today along with your group members. So again, they've already started sending these out. So hopefully by the end of the day today, all of you should have, or rather should receive the abstracts, right? So don't worry about that. If you are asking about the abstracts, so again, they are being sent out by the end of the day today. I've been told that everybody will be receiving the abstracts as well, right? So yes, you will get them soon. Coming back to where we were in this session. So we have been talking about React in the previous session. We have started talking about it, what React is, how it works, all those things. And we'll continue that discussion today. So we'll do a quick recap of what we discussed in the last session, and then we'll jump to today's agenda. So today we are focused on understanding how routing works in React, along with talking about something known as a prop. So these are two major topics that we'll focus on, in addition to, of course, a couple of other smaller things. Again, I have attached everything or uploaded everything into the GitHub repository. So if you just go and check the repository, you will be able to find everything updated over there, right? So yes, that is something that is also already done. Let me quickly show you the repository as well. So I'll just share the entire screen. Here we go. And this is the repository. So again, everything until session 14, which is the previous session, everything has been added over here. You can see, right? So all the code, everything that we have done, all of that is available in the repository now. In addition to this, I have also added all the links as well. So until session 14 recording, everything is available here as well, right? The LMS link is there, the assignment links are there. So pretty much everything that you need as of now is already available in the repository. So please go ahead and check that out as well. Again, I'm putting the link to the repository in the chat. Just in case if you need it, I'll do the same thing on the YouTube chat as well, right? So let me just paste it over there. Done. I've pasted the links on both Zoom as well as on the YouTube chat. So please keep it with you. And yes, everything is updated over there. Now, coming to the next part. So the next thing that we are focusing on today is, of course, first we'll do a quick recap of what we have done and then focus on two major topics. That's router and props. The first thing that we need to know again is that React is a UI toolkit or a UI library which helps us create what we call single page applications, right? So a lot of apps that we use on a daily basis, including apps like Netflix, Spotify, YouTube, right? A lot of these different applications have been created using React. And again, that is what we are trying to learn. So it's basically a specific format or a specific approach to create these single page applications. That is what React is, right? And we have also seen the website. The official website is called react.dev. The official website is called react.dev. That's where we find all the documentation. And let me just check this. So I'll click on the JS link. Right. I will update this link. I'm not sure why this is not working. Let me check this with the team and I will update it. So yes, the JavaScript assignment link is not working. I'll check that out and I will update it. I'll ask the team to send to you as well. But yes, I'll do that after the session. Yes, coming back to the point. So React helps us create these single page applications wherein we can have multiple components, multiple independent components that work together, right? So eventually we'll also connect them to the database. We'll do all of those things one by one, right? So now that is what React is. Then how do we create a new React application? Well, we have seen this command as well. npx create React app and then the name of the application. So whatever name we give here, a folder with this name gets created and all the code that we get, right, all the default files and folders that we get are automatically created by this command. Again, in order to run this command, we need to have Node installed. So Node.js needs to be installed for this to work. Hopefully you have it installed and you are able to create React applications. We'll do this again in just a minute. Then we have seen, right, that exploring default files and folders. We have seen all the different files. I have shown you what role each file has. And I've also told you how this qualifies as a single page application, right? So there is only one HTML file in the entire project, and there will always be just one HTML file in the entire project. That is why we call it an SPA, or a single page application, right? So that's the idea. Now, the next thing that we are working on today is we'll figure out how do you actually, create different components and how do you structure them together. So that's something that we'll work on. Right, so we'll take a look at that. There are two questions in the chat. Let me quickly answer them. So the first question says, this is okay, in assignment, you have given to change color of page. Yes. My doubt is for every time we touch, only two should be changed or different colors to change. A different color. Obviously, it's a random color generator. So every time you click the button, a random color should be generated, right? Not just two colors, a random color every time. I gave you two screenshots so that you could see how the color is changing. And basically, yes, so different colors on every click, you have to write a random color functionality, right? So I hope that answers the question. And unidentified identifier is coming when working with React. Okay, no worries. When I write the code today, please check it against your code. You should be able to figure it out. And so yes, you can either upload a zip file, Prasad, or upload individual HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Multiple files also you can upload, but you have to upload them one by one. So first upload HTML, then again click on upload file, upload CSS, again click on upload file, upload JavaScript. Or you can upload a zip as well. That will also work fine, right? Uh, so is again for people who are asking me the college code, I don't know the college code. So please reach out to the support team. They will be able to help you out. Or please reach out to other friends from your college. If you know somebody who has joined it, please reach out to them. They will be able to help you with the college code. I really don't know the college code. So yes, sorry about that. How many colors should we add? You can have n number of colors, right? It's a random generator. So you can write a logic such that it is random color on every click. So the logic will make it a random color. So we don't want to choose from an array. We want to generate it randomly. So you can use RGB, generate a random number between 0 to 255 and put that in. That should be good, right? So that's how you can work with that. Perfect. So coming to this setup, let's go ahead and we are going to now figure out how to create the components and all of that. Again, we have already seen this. We have seen how components work. So every UI element that we see on the screen is basically going to be a component, right? And then we have also seen how to break a UI into components. I shared the screen last time, and then we have sketched out, or rather you sketched out all the different components as well. So again, all of this is something we have already discussed. Today's agenda is we'll take another look at creating a new component in React. Then we'll understand how we can nest them together. So basically, we'll try to create the entire structure of a page like header, footer, different sections. How do we do that in React? And then we'll take a look at props and routing. These are some of the focus areas or the agenda points for today, right? So yes, let's jump in and get started. Again, the very first thing is we are going to create the React application first of all. So I'll switch to VS Code. It's a new folder. I don't have any application as such. So I'll open up the terminal first of all. Then you know the command. The command is npx create React app, right? And then we can write the name of the application that we want to create. So let us say we call it, let's just say learn React. This is the name that I am giving again. So I've given the name. This will take a few minutes, about 2 to 3 minutes in my case, because again, it depends on the internet speed. It depends on the system that you are using, right? So yes, we can just wait for a minute for this to set up, and then we can continue with the component creation. Um, Right. Also, so people who are asking how many colors should there be? I think this is Aradhya from YouTube Live. Please make sure that there is no limit to the number of colors. It's going to be a random color on every click. So basically, we're talking about infinite colors. Every time you click the button, a new color should be generated. A random color should be generated. So we don't want 5 colors and we're choosing from those 5. On every click, a new color, a random color should be generated. Right. So I hope, Aradhya, that answers your question. And yes, now let's cd into the folder and then npm start. This will trigger the application and open it up in the browser, right? So you can see this will open up over here. As you can see, this is our React project that is now open in Chrome, right? Perfect. So this is what we have. And then again, this is the default logo that comes up, one line of code, like one paragraph, and then one link. This is what we get from the default files and folders. Again, we have already seen that in detail. We have seen the purpose of every file, right? And we have seen, basically how to work with every file. So this is what we have. Right? So yes, again, we have so many different files and folders that get created. Let me quickly show this to you as well. So again, we have the README file, which I'm going to delete. We don't need this. Package.json is really important. This keeps a track of all the dependencies that we have in our project. So this is important. Package log is automatically generated from package.json. Again, we have discussed this already. I'm just giving you a quick recap of the same. Then inside the source, we don't really need most of these files. So I'm going to just select everything that we don't need and delete them. The only file that I've kept is index.js and index.css. I'll delete everything that we don't need here. And let me just put a single h1 on the page for now. Let me just call this hello. So this is the bare minimum setup that we need, right, in React. And then in the public folder, again, we are going to delete everything except for index.html. So except for that one file, I will delete everything else. In index.html, again, we don't need most of these things. So let me just get rid of those so that we are only left with everything that we really, really need, right? So this is not needed. This is not needed and done. So this is the bare minimum HTML code that we need. Again, the reason why this is called a single page application is because of this line. Right? There is only one HTML file, of course. That's the reason why it's a single page app. Today, we will see how to actually link multiple sections within the same page. So I'll tell you how to do that as well in some time, right? After we set up a new component, right? So again, Satya, so the question is, I've uploaded the direct result. I don't really understand what do you mean by result. If you're talking about a screenshot, then yes, it is the wrong upload. We want the code, right? I want to see the code, the HTML code, CSS code, JavaScript code. So please make sure you upload the code files and not the output. Right? The output, anybody can, you can upload my own output back. So that's not what we are looking at. We are looking at the code. So make sure you upload your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code, right? So yes, that's how you can upload the assignment. But yes, again, coming back to the point. So the reason why we call this a single page application is because obviously there is only one HTML page in the entire project. That's why it's called a SPA, single page, because there's only one HTML page, right? Then we also discussed how we can actually create a new component. So let us go ahead and create one. I'm going to first create a folder. It's going to be called components, just to keep everything organized. And then I will create a new component within the folder. So let's call it header. Let's say we are creating a header component, right? And again, this is how we create a component. First of all, we have to write this line, import React from React. Again, if you remember, for this, I have already told you that you can install an extension called Simple React Snippets, right? The extension is called Simple React Snippets. This is how it looks like. So please make sure you have installed this. This will give us access to a bunch of shortcuts. For example, IMR. If you just type IMR, it will import React. Then if you type FFC, this will create the function component, etc., etc. So this is a very handy extension. It helps us, quickly set up a new React project, and it saves a lot of time when we're actually typing the code. So this is something that you should definitely install. So FFC and tab, this will give us the function syntax. Let's give it the name header. So you can see it has automatically created two cursors for us, and we have written the function component name. Then inside return, what do we do? We can write HTML code. So remember, I also told you that this is called JSX, JavaScript expressions. We call it JSX, JavaScript expressions. So JavaScript expressions basically means that we are writing HTML within JavaScript. Remember when we were talking before React, when we were using JavaScript, we were importing JavaScript into HTML, right? So the actual file was .html file, and within that we were adding the script. But here what we are doing is we are adding HTML inside of JavaScript. So they are actually different things, right? And that is why it is called JSX, JavaScript expressions. Again, you can either save this as a .js file, or you can also save it as a .jsx, right? It will not really matter in this case, but I'll stick to the normal JS file. You can also name it JSX, it will work fine, right? So this is how we create a new component in React. We have already seen this. The first line is the import that we need. Then this is the function. The return will contain the HTML template that needs to be returned, and then explore default header, export default header. Once we export this, then we can go ahead and use that in the index.js. So what we can do is we can import it and use it over here. You can see when I was typing, it has automatically imported the header because it recognizes that there is a component like this in the folder structure. If the import is not happening automatically, you can type it out. So assume that the import does not happen. We can always type out this line of code, right? We can type out this line of code. So this is how it works. And now if we check the output, you can see we get header on the screen. This means our application is working as expected, and we have set it up as expected, right? Perfect. So this is how we can create a new component. This is everything that we have discussed already. Now, coming to today's major agenda, what we want to do are a couple of things. So first, what I want to do is I want to create 3, 4 different links. Let's say we have home, about, contact. Then what we'll do is we'll create multiple components and we'll try to link them. So when you click on about should show up. When you click on contact, contact should show up. So that's the first thing that we'll do. And then the next thing that we'll do is we'll try to create or use something called props, wherein we can reuse certain components. So let us set this up one by one. The first thing that we'll do is work with linking. So linking in React terminology is called routing. Okay, routing, routing. For this, we need to install an additional package which is available in npm called React Router DOM. Okay, so to install this, we need to open the terminal. So I've opened the terminal here, right? Let's stop the application for now. To stop it, we use Control C. Control C, this will stop the application. So we have npm install. We can also write npm I for short. The name of the package is React Router DOM. This is a very important package. You will use it in almost every single React project that you create, including the final project that you will be creating for the internship. So this is a very, very important package. Again, we have npm install React Router DOM. As soon as you hit enter, it will again connect to npm. It will find the package and it will install everything for us. As you can see, it says added 3 packages, right? So this is done. Now, how do we check this? Well, we can go to our package.json file, and over here you will see React Router DOM is now available. If you can see it here, this means the installation has happened successfully, right? So this is how we install a package from npm. Again, with time, we will take a look at a lot of such packages, right? With time, we will take a look at a lot of such packages. For now, we have just installed our very first external package, which is React Router DOM. Perfect. Now, how do we use it? Well, this is where it gets interesting. We have a very particular way in which we have to structure this, and it's very important, right? So first, before we do that, let us quickly create different components. Okay. So just like I have header, I'm going to create a component called contact.js. I will create another component called about.js so that we actually have a place to go to. We have something to go to. So again, let's quickly set this up. I'll create the about component first, and I will just write here, this is the about component. That's it, right? I'll just write this much. I'll copy the same thing for the contact as well. So again, we are just creating 2 different components. That is just one line of heading. This is the component, right? Now, how do we check these? We can just put them in the index. So after header, what I can do is I can call the about component just like HTML, and I can also call the contact component, right? So if you see the output now, you can see, because our application is not running, so we have to first run it. So that will be again cd learn react and then npm start. Once we do this, it should open up the browser. As you can see, it loads the application. And here you can see we have all three things. We have the header also, we have the about also, and the contact also. But obviously, this is not what we want, right? We want one of them to be visible at one point of time. Right? We want one of them to be visible at one point of time. Okay. So again, for this, what we can do is we can go ahead and we can first create a link. So let's do that in our header. Okay. So inside the header, what we'll do is instead of this H1, let us return something called nav. So nav, as you might know, is navigation bar. Within this, I will create a UL and then I will create three list items, which are links. So the first link, I'm just creating the HTML version for now. We'll change this to the React version after we create the HTML. So the first link will be home. Let's copy this two more times. So this is going to be contact. And then let's put about, and then this will be contact. So we have put three links right now. And again, if we just check the output, we can see the three links show up on the screen. Perfect. Now, this is something that we want available all the time. Header should be visible all the time. But out of the other things, we want only about or contact or home to be visible. So first up, let us create home as well. So home.js. Again, I'll just create a simple empty component with a single heading calling this is home. So H1, this is home component. Done. Right. So basically, we have three components that we now want to switch between. We want to shuffle between home, about, and contact based on what is clicked from the navigation bar. Right. Simple. Is this making sense so far? Let me also call the home component over here. Right? So again, what we have is we have three different components: home, about, and contact. And what we want to do is whenever we click on the link, either we click on home, it should take us to home. When we click on about, it should take us to about. When we click on contact, it should take us to contact. That's what we want to create now. Right? So yes, let me go ahead and show this to you. So again, I think there is one question in the chat regarding NPM not working. So Karthik, please try creating it in a place where you have access, right? So what I mean by that is if you are creating this inside the C drive, you might not have access to write files and folders. So try to create it either on the desktop or some public folder like documents or somewhere. That is one. Number two, try to create it when you open folder in VS Code. If you just open VS Code, it will not work. You have to open it as folder. Right? So again, you go to File, Open Folder. First, open your folder from the desktop, wherever you have created. Then open the terminal and try to create it. That should do it. If there are no other node issues, that should do it. Right? So that is important. Don't run it directly in the terminal. You have to first open folder. Right? If not, I think Lokesh has also given a suggestion. NPM install create React app. You can try that out as well. But by default, NPM does contain it already. But yes, if it is not working, you can try that out. Right? Perfect. So now what we want to do is we want to basically create three different links: home, about, and contact. So let's set that up now. For this, we need a couple of imports. So the first import that we need is something called browser router. Okay, so browser router. Then the second thing that we need is something called routes. And then the third thing that we need is called route. Okay, and all of these will come from React Router DOM. Okay, this is where they will come from, React Router DOM. So these are three imports that we need for this to work. How this works is the first thing that we have is the browser router. So let me just set that up. This is the external thing, the outermost thing, right? Now within the browser router, we will have something called routes. Okay, routes. And then inside these routes, we will create individual routes. So again, browser router first, then routes, and then the individual route we will create over here. So let's remove these for now. And now we'll create individual route. So route will be a single tag or a self-closing tag. This will take two things. So first up the path, which is where should the user be, and then which element should be shown. So here we can write home, right? So what this means is that when the user opens up slash, which is the default path, they should see the home component. Now, how do we know if this is working? Well, we can check. Right now, if we see at localhost 3000, all the other components are gone. We are only able to see the home component. This is how the router works. Right? This is how the router works. So again, right? So how this is working is first up we have browser router. So this browser router is basically the outermost container. This will contain everything inside the browser or rather inside our React where we need to give different paths or routes. Then the next thing that we have is this routes. Routes is basically a container for all the individual routes. So basically everything that we want available outside or always will go outside the routes. So for example, in this case, we want the header to be available always. No matter which component we are currently on, we want the navigation bar to always be there. So that we will keep outside of the routes, right? So routes will basically contain only those elements or only those components which need to be changed. If there is something that is common or should always be available, it should be public. Okay. So yes, I don't have any other choice, you guys, but I will be disabling the chat for everyone because I think there's a lot of ruckus going on in the chat. I don't want this to happen. So I am seeing you guys putting messages, and that is like inappropriate messages to be more precise. So I am just going to disable this chat, and yeah, I will only enable it for a minute when we take doubts, right? So otherwise, sorry, but I have disabled the chat. I don't want this to become a problem later, right? I hope everybody is here to learn something and let's focus on that itself, right? I've been seeing this for a few sessions now, but I think today it has become, it has gone one more level up. So let's not encourage any of that. And yes, I will enable the chat only when you have a doubt or like only when we take questions. So yes, the same thing. I think YouTube Live does not have. It does not happen on YouTube Live, fortunately. So yes, again, you guys, please stay. Please keep the chat appropriate to the session. Let's not, make this a problem, right? So yes, coming back to the point. So like I was saying, browser router is the overall container for the whole thing. Then we have something called routes. This will contain only those elements which need to be switched, basically. So they need to be switched. And then basically here we are writing individual route. Let me just see if I have that option. And yes, so I'm making the chat only to host. Okay, so you cannot talk to each other, but you can send me messages. I think that should be good enough. If you have a question, you can just send it to me directly. I will try to answer that, but I am disabling all other group chats, right? So yes, I don't want that to be a problem or inappropriate. So yes, I hope that works for all of you. You should still be able to send a message directly to me. If you have a question, please send it to me. Otherwise, yeah, the chat is disabled for the group. Perfect. So now what we want is we want other paths as well. So let's set up the next route. This route is going to be the about route. So we can set the path to about and the element can be about element over here. So what this means is if we go to slash about, then only the about component should show up in addition to the header, which is available for common, right? So again, if I try this out, so let's go to slash about. You can see this changes from home to about, which means now when we are on the about route or the about URL, we are able to see the about component. And when we are on the home URL, the home path, we are able to see the home component, right? So this is how it works. Again, this is Mitra in YouTube Live. If you are seeing this error, it means you have not installed Node, Mitra. So like I said, you have to go to nodejs.org. Please go here. This is the URL, nodejs.org. Install the LTS version. So just click on it. It will give you the relevant installer for your machine and install it, right? You have to install it and only then will your commands work. So like I said, Node is mandatory for creating React apps. Without Node, we cannot create React applications, right? Perfect. So in a similar way, I will copy this, paste it one more time. Let's create the contact route and we'll change this to contact and done. Now we can quickly test it. So if we go to slash contact, then we are able to see the contact component. Then if we go to about, we are able to see the about component. And if we don't put anything, the slash, the default route, then we see the home component, right? There is one more thing that we typically do in such a setup, which is the not found route, right? So let's quickly create a component for that as well. So we'll create something called not found .js, because right now no matter what we type it will still load something. As you can see, it still shows something on the screen. We don't want this to happen. If the user ends up at a place they should not, or that does not exist, then we should give them a not found error, right? So again, I'm going to set this up, and this will be not found. And what I will return over here is again a simple H1. I will say 404 not found. Done. Right. Now what we need to do is we go back to our index.js, and in the exact same way that we have here, we copy paste it and the path will be star. So it means if none of these match, if none of the above paths are a match, then we want to return the not found element, right? So if none of these routes match, then we return a not found. So now if I type anything at random, you will see we get 404 not found, except for those things. So if we type about, we get about. If we type contact, we get contact. If we type anything else, we get not found. Perfect. This is how a real world application is, right? We have a not found page. So again, this is how we work with the React router. Let me repeat this once again so that you understand it properly. Step one, we have to install the React router. So the command is npm install React router DOM. This is the name of the package, React router DOM. Once we install this package, next what we do is we import three things from it. We have something called browser router, which is the outermost container. Then we have routes, which is for all the individual routes. And then each individual path or link is specified with the route component, right? So this is the setup. We take browser router, outermost. Then we keep all the common things like header, footer, chatbots, everything that should always be visible, irrespective of whatever the component is on the screen, everything that should always be available, that goes outside the routes. And then all the paths that we want to create, this goes inside the routes component. Again, we can create a footer here and we can put it over here. So that would mean the header and the footer are always visible. And then we, basically just keep the other things which change. Now, how do we work with this? Well, each individual path is specified like this. The component is route. We have two parameters. The first parameter is path. This is the URL path. What is written in the URL? That is written over here. So if we go to slash about, we want the about element. If we go to slash contact, we want to show the contact element. If nothing is written, then show the home element, right? Finally, what we want to do is if we have the path as none of these, which means if we are not on the home path or the about path or the contact path, then we show not found. So for this, we are putting path equal to star. Star would mean if none of these are a match. If none of these are a match, then this one will match and we will show not found, right? Is this clear? Does this make sense? Again, let me know in the chat. You can still message me. So please let me know if this makes sense. And then we'll move to the linking part. We have still not linked the menu, which is our navigation bar. But I hope you have now understood how to set this up. So again, if we check the output, if we go to about, we get the about. If we go to contact, we get the contact. As you can see, if we get to home, we get the home component. And if we go anywhere else, then we get not found. right? So this is working perfectly as expected. And of course, the header is common in all of them. So the header is always visible, no matter which route we are on, right? Perfect. Now, the next thing that we have to do is to link them, which is get the menu to work. How can you do this? Well, let's open up our menu. So that's available in header.js. This is a navigation bar, right? Now here we have to replace the HTML A tag with the link component which we get from the router package. So again, we have to import link from React Router DOM, right? And then we replace the A tag with this link tag. Okay, so we replace A with this link. As you can see here, I'm replacing all the A opening, closing with links. Then the attribute here is also different. We don't have the href attribute, but instead we have something called to. Okay, this is the attribute that we have to put here, and this needs to be the URL. So again, slash would take us home, slash about would take us to about, and slash contact will take us to contact. This should exactly match the route specified in index. So if I just open them side by side, right, the links that we're giving here, these should exactly match the route paths that have been specified inside the browser router. Only then will this work. Okay, so again, this is how we set up the linking. We replace the A tag with something called the link tag. And then instead of the href attribute, we have something called the to attribute. So where do you want this to link? We want it to link to the slash route, which is nothing but the home element. Where do you want this to link to? Well, this should go to the about path, which is nothing but the about component. Similarly, this is contact. This takes us to the contact component. So with this, our links should now start working fine. Let's check. So we are currently in the home component. Let me click on about. So I'm zooming in here and I'm clicking on about. You can see instantly we reach the about path, which loads the about component, right? Now let's click on contact. So I can click on contact. As you can see, it automatically immediately loads up the contact component. Finally, I click on home. It loads up the home component, as you can see. Now, the difference between A and link, again, this is a very standard interview question. So pay very close attention. The difference between the A tag and the link tag is that the A tag will reload the browser, right? This will still work. So if I can just show you a quick demo here, what I will do is I will add the A tag again. Okay, I'll add the A tag like this. Let's call this about, and the link is going to be slash about. Okay, we can still do this, right? So let me just put the correct link. That's localhost 3000 slash about. Okay, this entire thing will work. Now, this will still work. So you can see if I click on about, it still loads the component, but notice the difference here, right? So let's go back home and refresh. Now I'm at the contact component, and you will now see that the browser will reload, or the entire page will reload. So let me click on about. You will see two things. First, the zoom will go away and it will reload the whole thing. As you can see, it reloads the application entirely. This is not what we want. So effectively, what the A tag does is it reloads the entire application all over again. We don't want that. We just want to switch between components. So basically what we want to do is every time we use a link, it is basically taking this route from HTML and replacing the content without actually reloading the HTML page. We don't want to reload the HTML page. That is what the A tag does. Right? So the A tag is going to reload the HTML page, and that is why we don't use it. Okay. So you will never see A tags being used in a React project unless, of course, we are linking to social media or some external links. If that is the case, then it's a different story, right? So that's the idea, right? Perfect. So this is the setup. This is how we can set this up. And now you can see, so home, about, contact, this opens up without reloading the application or without reloading the browser. It opens up in a single page within the page itself. So this is why we call this a single page application, an SPA. Once we open index.html, we will never reload it. We will never reload the page. That's why it's called a single page application. And this is always open. It shifts. We can still open different parts on the screen. But what we're effectively doing is we are just replacing the content inside this root div, which is available in the single HTML page that we have. That's it. That is how the whole routing bit works, right? So now let's take a round of questions if you have any on this. Uh, Yes. So if you have any questions on this, let me know in the chat. The chat is already enabled for me. You can still send a message to me, right? And yes, so if you have any questions, I will take those now. Can we use link to in HTML? No, Arjun. Link comes from the router package. So we've just installed that, right? React Router DOM. So it's a new package that we are using. If you can see React Router DOM. So this is an additional package which we need. It is not available in HTML. It is not even available in React. Actually, we use an external third-party package from NPM, from NPM basically. So yes, we don't have something called link in HTML. The HTML link with the lowercase l that is used to connect to CSS. Right? We link CSS, external CSS using the link, but it's a different tag. Lowercase l and capital L are different things. Tap link again. You guys, I have been sharing the repository link with you for so many days. Every single session I share it with you. The LMS link is available over here, and I have added it here. As you can see, everything is available here. I don't understand how it is not available to you. Yes, again, I have put the tap link in the chat. Please copy this. Whoever asked this question to me, please copy this link. Please keep it with you. I've sent it so many times in the chat. Again, please keep the repository link. Everything is available over there. I've been saying this for so long now. Uh, Again, the assignment links are also available in GitHub repository. So please go there, click on the assignment link. You should be able to open the assignment. Can you tell the difference between A and link? Yes. So the difference between the A tag and the link tag, basically, is that in the case of the A tag, we reload the entire page. So if we use instead of link, if you use the A tag, it reloads the browser, right? You know what a reload is, right? We load everything once again. But a link will not reload. It will simply replace the content which is already visible. So we don't perform the server connection again. See, when we reload something, what we are doing is we are connecting to the server again. We are sending another request. The server is sending us another response. But when we don't use the A tag or when we use the link tag, what we are doing is we are just we are just replacing the content. We don't reload, which means we don't send another request to the server. The server does not send us anything back. In the first go itself, we load everything and then we simply replace it when we need it. So that's the difference between the A and the link. Uh, we need to save our files as .mjs. No, so again, Dinesh, MJS is a module thing. You can work with that as well, but it's an advanced concept which we are not going to explore in this course. But yes, if you want to create these modules that ES6 supports, then you can store them as MJS and they will work fine. What is white? So Vamshi, white is another way of installing or creating a React project, kind of like we have NPM. So in a similar way, we have something called white as well. It's basically an alternate to creating a React application. We typically use it when working with the Next.js framework. So if you want to create a React application with Next, that's where we can use white. Uh, Learning. No, Shankar, again. So learning HTML is never useless because if you don't know HTML, then how will you create this nav tag? How will you know what UL is? How will you know what LI is? Right. So it's not that it is useless. How will you know how the H1 is, what it is, right? So everything is there for a reason. HTML is required to add content. We cannot add it without HTML. Right? So unless you don't know HTML, you will not understand anything that is written over here. So it's not useless. Obviously, whatever we see on the screen is going there because of HTML only, right? So of course, nothing is useless. Uh, Right. So good question. This is Gayatri. She's asking, why don't we write slash home as like about or contact that we have written? So again, a very good question. The reason is because we want the home component to load up by default, right? So see, whenever you open any website, you will always just type this much, right? You'll only type it this much. For example, if you type google.com, we don't type google.com/home, right? We don't type it like this. So again, you can see this will lead us into a random place. But my point is, whenever we open any website, we don't type slash home ourselves. That is why we don't write it. So the first component that we want the user to see is always written with the slash, because that's all we type when opening a website. That's the first component. And that is why we call it this much only, right? And then again, for about and contact, since we are linking them there, they can go. But if we don't put anything here, then unless we type the entire path, nothing will load, right? So now, if we don't, if we don't type in slash home, for instance, nothing will load, right? So I think we have to restart. Oh yes, I changed it in the wrong place, right? So if I put home like this, then on my localhost 3000, nothing will load because there is no path specified for that. So it goes to not found. And that's why the first path that the user will open will always be slash for the main component, home component, and then we take them wherever we want using the links. Perfect. Let's take a look at the YouTube comments as well. Why we use all these front-ending in React, we can also use in HTML. No, Aditya, it's actually not the same, right? So HTML and React are very different things. If you make 3 HTML pages, you will have to reload the browser every time. Again, like I said, in this case, we are not reloading the browser. And again, when we cover the dynamic parts later, you will understand why this is different. Obviously, if you make an HTML page, it is practically useless. It's a static page. We can't really change anything in HTML. But with React, when you click a to-do list option, it can add to the list, it can save to the database. All of those things can happen, which will not happen directly with HTML. So obviously, right, React is a much better way to get things done, which is why, of course, everybody is using it. As a challenge, just try creating something like Netflix in terms of functionality, not just in terms of the display, but in terms of functionality. Like when you click the like button, the heart should become red. When you click on a video, it should be added to your history. It should show up in continue watching. None of those changes can be made with HTML. You need additional functionality, which is where React comes in. Right? So there are a lot of things that we can do with React, which we can obviously not do with HTML. Again, so Gyaneshwari, like I said, Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, all of these websites are real-time examples of React, right? LinkedIn, all of these things have been built on React itself. So I hope those examples are, good enough for you to understand how powerful React as a framework is. Perfect. I think those are all the questions that we have in the chat. So yes, great. Let's continue to the next topic. So this is going to be very simple. If you have understood routing, the next part is actually much simpler than that. So we basically call it function props. We call it component props or function props. So let me show you how this works. Well, again, it's very simple. In a lot of cases, what we want to do is we want to reuse the same component again and again. Let me give you a simple example. So let us say that we create something like team member. Okay. So I'll create a simple component called team member.js. Again, I'll make this as a simple function component. So FFC team member. Now, assume that we have 5 team members. Okay. Assume that we have 5 team members. So we'll return a div over here. Okay. Now this div will contain the name of the member. So name. Then let's say we have a small description, which could be the position. So let's say, position and company like this. And then we can have the social media profile. So this can be Ahref and let's say connect on LinkedIn, for example. Okay. So now this is something that we have available for a team member. Let us say that we want to use it in the about page. So we have written this. after this, or rather, we have to put this in an empty component. So let's make a section. And within this, we can call team member, right? Now, imagine that we have 5 members. So if I just copy paste it 5 times, what will happen is, let's go to about. What will happen is we do get the details, but obviously it will repeat the same details, right? Naturally, it will repeat the same details every time. What we want to do is we want 5 different values to be given to these 5 different team members. How can that be done? That is where props come in. So what we do is in the component, like when we create a component over here, what we do is we use something called props. Okay. So this is called props. Okay. And this is basically a function parameter or a function argument. And then instead of name, we'll say props dot name, right? Instead of the position, again, we will say props dot position. And then we'll say comma props dot company, for example, right? And then again, here we can pass in the link. So this can be props dot link in URL, right? And then this can be the same, of course. Connect on LinkedIn should be the same for everybody, obviously, right? So this is a transformation of the component in a way that it can now use dynamic values. How can we do this? Well, we can pass the dynamic values when we call the component just like an HTML attribute, right? So what are the different properties that we have? Well, first up, we have name, position, company, and LinkedIn URL. Let's pass it one by one. So we'll say name is equal to, let's say John, this is one. So we can say position is equal to, let's say founder, for example, right? So this is the position. Then we have company. So we can pass in that. Let's say company is equal to XYZ. And then we have the LinkedIn. So that's LinkedIn URL. Something like this. Let me copy the exact spelling from there. Equal to, and then we'll keep it empty for now. Okay. So now what we are doing is we are dynamically passing values down to the component. So basically, if you think of it in the nesting structure, then the about component, which is the parent component, is passing values down to the child component, which is being used inside it. So about component is calling team member with different values, as you can see. So now we have John, founder XYZ, connect on LinkedIn. These values are coming from the parent. Now let us say tomorrow, if a new member joins in, all we have to do is we just have to pass a different set of values. Right? So this can be co-founder, for example. And this can be company, can be ABC, or it could also be the same company, and that's it. Now, if you check the result, you can see the same component is reused. We have reused the team member component, but with a different set of details, right? So this is what we call props. These are function props. We call them parameters or properties, right? So again, props are passed from the parent component to the child component so that the child component can be reused every time. Again, tomorrow, let us say that you want to change the styling of this. So again, let's say that you want to create this, into a flex box. So we can just change the display to flex, for instance. Right? We can do it this way. And you can see now this becomes a flex box, obviously. And then we can also put justify. So that's comma, justify content. Let's say we set it to space around, for example. Again, just one of these. You can see now they are probably properly being spaced around, right? We can also set it to space evenly. So all the CSS that we have done obviously works here as well. This is space evenly. Then tomorrow, let's say that you want to add images to this. It's very simple. You don't have to edit 5 different components. All you do is just go to team member, add a new image thing here, and add a new property. So image source equal to props.image URL, for example. Then what we can do is, well, we can just pass that in over here. We can say image URL is equal to, and just pass the link. That's it, right? So you can see how convenient it is to modify these things. We don't have to go and change it in 5 places. We just change it in one place because we only create the component once. So this is what props are. We can reuse them whenever we want, right? And they basically help make components reusable. So the components become a lot more reusable. Of course, we can just get some images quickly. So let's just look for people. And let me just pick one. Maybe let's take this image. So copy image address, copy image address. Let me paste it. This can be John. And then let me take one more. Let's take this one, copy image address. And let me just put that for Jane. Okay, done. Now, if we see, we will have images along with the team details. Now, how do we style this? Again, we don't have to style them in two different places. Since they are coming from a single component, what we can do is we can just style the image directly inside the component itself, right? Because it's a one-time style. It's never going to be used anywhere else. So we can say the border, let's say the border radius, let's make it 100%. So this will make the image circular. And then we can change the width of the image. So let's change width to something like, let's set it to 150 pixels, something like this. So you can see immediately both images get modified or both items get modified, right? So this is the power of using props or using reusable components. We just change it once and it gets affected immediately. Tomorrow, again, let's say there's a new member coming in. We can just copy paste it and we can just replace the details of the new member and we are done. Of course, typically you will have images of the same size. Here you can see the size is a little different. But when we create our own images, obviously they will be of the same size, right? So you can see how important this is and how nicely it works, right? So we just have to get it done like this. So again, what we have done here is we have created a component with props. Props help us pass data down from the parent component to the child component, right? So in this case, the parent component is about, and this is where we are calling the team member, which is the child component in this case. So we are passing certain values, for example, image URL, name, position, company, and LinkedIn. And these details we are using over here, props.name, props.position, company, LinkedIn URL, like this. So again, this is the beauty of React. This is what JSX is, right? JavaScript expressions. How can we combine HTML and JavaScript? This is a really good example of that. We have HTML H1 combined with the dynamic value coming from JavaScript. Tomorrow, all we have to do is, let's say we are doing this from a database. So all we have to do is we just have to add a few lines of code to get these details from the database instead of the parent component. Simple, right? So again, this is how the whole setup works. We can pass data from one component to the other down like this, and we can then use it using props, right? Now there is one more thing here which is basically right. The idea is that we can do it this way. So we can definitely use props, and then individually we can say props.image, props.name, props.position. This will work fine. There is another way which is called destructuring. Okay, so destructuring is very simple. We use these curly brackets and we directly write the names of the attributes coming in. For example, name, image URL, right? Then we have position, we have company, we have LinkedIn URL, like so, right? So again, all these values that we are using with the term props, props, props everywhere, we can even replace props everywhere by using this idea of destructuring. So now if you check the output, nothing will change. There is no error. You can see this works exactly the same way and gives us the exact same result as well. But instead of using props, what we have done basically is we have directly destructured them here. This means we are already accessing these values from the props directly. So this is another way to do it. But in my case, I usually prefer the earlier approach because it makes more sense, right? It gets confusing when we have too many props. So if it's one or two values, we can use destructuring. But when we have 5, 6 values like these, we stick to the normal props setup. Okay. So again, we say props. Props will be everything that we pass from the parent component. So everything that we pass here, like this image URL, name, position, company, all of these become props. Then we can use them or access whatever we want using props dot. Whenever we want to combine HTML and JavaScript, this is how we do it. So we put H1, this is HTML, and then in curly brackets, we can put the JavaScript code, right? So even if we want to conditionally show something like green color or red color, this button or that button, we can do all of that within the curly brackets, within the curly brackets. So this is how we can work with the props, component props, right? And this is also how we nest components inside each other. So we have the about component within which we are putting team member. Right? So this is also nesting of components. Now, let us say that we want a bunch of different components on the home page, right? So in the home right now, we just have one H1. This is the home component. But let's say that we have different sections, right? For example, let me create another folder here called home. Within this, let's just create different sections. So let's just call it section. I'll keep it very simple. I'll just call it section 1. Okay. Let's create one more thing for section 2.js. Let's create a third section, section 3.js. And let's create a common footer. So footer.js. Now, what we want to do is, again, I'll just quickly set up empty components for all of them. So section 1, H1, this is section 1, right? So this is 1. Let's copy this, go to section, and I will just replace 1 with 2 everywhere. So this is section 2, right? I think this is the problem. Section 2. Let's copy this, paste it, and replace 2 with 3. So this is 3 done. Now, let us say that to make our home page, we want 5 components. We have the header, then section 1, section 2, section 3, and finally the footer, right? How can we set this up? Very simple, right? What we have to do is just go here, put an empty fragment. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. An empty fragment looks like this. Basically, we can return only one HTML element at a time. Okay, we can return only one HTML element at a time. So if we want to return multiple things, for example, let's start with header. This is the first thing that we want to return, right? So header is returned. Then after this, we want section 1. Then after this, we want section 2. Okay, so that's going there. Then after this, we want section 3. That's done. Then after this, we want the footer. We haven't set it up yet, but let us say that this is the format that we want. You can see this gives us an error because, like I said, what we can do is we can only return one component or one HTML element at a time, right? So here I will just write P. And let's just write copyright ampersand. Okay, can you tell me in the chat quickly what was the way to create the copyright symbol in HTML? We have discussed this. They are called HTML character entities, right? Do you remember? How do we create the copyright symbol and the love symbol, the heart symbol? Can you let me know in the chat? How can we create these two symbols using HTML? Type the entire code out. What is the exact code that we can write to create that symbol? Right. So Pavan, I think the error that you're getting requires you to install one more thing, which is called npm install create React app. First do that and then try to run it. Ampersand copy, perfect. So what we can do is we can say ampersand copy like this, right? Let's put the break and then made with ampersand hearts in India, for example. So this is how we can put a heart and ampersand hearts are done. Now, coming back to our home, right? So this is where we are getting the error. As you can see, we are getting an error because we are trying to return more than one component or more than one element. The constraint, the restriction here is that we can only return one element overall. So what we can do is there are two ways. Either we can put this entire thing in a section. We can just put the entire thing in a section. So now effectively we are only returning a section, right? So if I just close it here, then at the end of the day, effectively we are only returning one element, that is the section. Let us say we don't even want that also. So what we can do is we can remove the term section. This is called an empty fragment. We call it a React fragment. Okay. So this is basically used in cases where we don't have anything. We don't want any other HTML element, but we still want to group things together. So that is where we use the fragment. Of course, we have to also import footer. Let me just type that in and import it this time. So all our imports are here. We have import header, then section 1, 2, 3 and footer. And then we are returning an empty fragment, which is basically an empty element. And then we can return as much as we want inside. If we remove this empty element, we will get an error because now technically we are returning more than one component or more than one element, which is not supported. It can only return one element at a time. Okay, so this is how we do this. And then if we check our home page now, you can see we have everything. So we have the header, then the three sections, and then the footer. We can also see our copyright and the heart symbol as well. Why is the header coming up twice? Well, because we have it already once in the index.js. So we can remove this. And now this looks as expected. So first we have the navigation bar, then the three sections. This could be anything about product, feedback, etc., etc. And then we have the footer. Okay, so this is how we can set up nesting of components. This is how we can nest multiple components within each other. Of course, now within section 2, we can have as many components as we want. Within section 1, we can have another div. It can be any number of nesting or any level of nesting like that, right? That brings us to one final thing that I want to show you today, which is another extension available in Chrome, right? So for accessing extensions, we can click on this button, these three dots. Then we can go to extensions. Here you can see there's a menu called extensions and visit web store. Visit Chrome web store. Here we are looking for React. Okay. This is the extension that I wanted to show you, React Developer Tools. So I already have it installed on my browser because I use it almost every day, but you can also install this. Again, the extension is called React Developer Tools. Let me show you what this does. So now, right, considering the fact that we are running a proper React application, we can right click and open inspect. Okay, right click and open inspect. As soon as we go to inspect with the React developer tools installed, we will see two additional options at the end. Right? As you can see, we have something called profiler. So if I just zoom in, you can see on the right hand side, we get different options. Okay, we get the profiler and the, so when you click on the arrow, notice the last two options. We get something called the components and something called the profiler. So again, after we click the arrow, we can see those options. So let me explore them one by one. Let's go to components. So when we go to components, you can actually see how the entire application is laid out. Okay, so you can see we have browser router, which is the entire thing. Within that, we have the router. Within that, we have navigation. Then comes our header. Header contains link, link, link. Then come routes. Within the route, we have home. And then we have section 1, section 2, section 3, and footer. Whenever you select the component, all the details about the component also show up over here. As you can see, we have the props. So this component does not have any props. Let us go to about. In the about, if we click, let's choose, one of these team member. So you'll be able to see all the props that we have passed in to the team member, and you can also modify them here. So whatever change you make, you can see is reflected live on the website as well, right? So again, this is a very important extension when working with a React application, and not just for your application. You can also open this up and see it for other websites as well. For example, let us say we go to Netflix, for example, right? It's not logged in right now. So let's go to inspect and let's go to our profiler, or let's go to our components. So as soon as we go here, this is also proof that Netflix is running on React because React developer tools work. And you can see how complicated this structure is. Right? You can see how complicated this entire structure is. So of course, they have spent a lot of time to make it a lot more secure, etc., etc. But again, we can just select a component, and that component will also get highlighted, right, in the component tree that we have over here. So again, we can just click on this button and select whatever we want, and accordingly it will show up, right? You can see this entire setup, UI markup, right? This is there. Then somewhere you'd also find the button, the next button, etc., etc. All of those things are available over here. So this I think is in the footer, as you can see. So we are selecting different links in the footer now, right? So again, you can see this language selection. This is the drop down, right? So we have two languages to select from, etc., etc. And again, the whole setup is available. You can see plan selection. So within this, we should then have the button also somewhere. And I think you can see this is the component anonymous paragraph tappable. This is the button. You can see again here, we have so many props coming in. So what should happen on blur, on focus, right? Delay, button, C plans. You can see these are all the different props that are available. So the point is, this is how we can explore a React application. For our own application also, it will work. And for all other applications also, this will work. So you can experiment this with YouTube. You can experiment this with other React based applications as well, and you'll be able to see a proper graph or a proper tree over here, right? So this is a very important extension. You should check this out, right? uh, Right. So Karthik, I think your issue is to do with again the npm environment variable setup. So please Google how to set up npm environment variable. Okay, I think that's the problem in your case. It is already set up when we install it, but in some cases it does not. So either you can try to reinstall or just look for something called environment variable. Okay, so that should give you the solution. Environment variable. Okay, just try to find this, and you will have to just go and set a path there manually. That should fix your problem. Perfect. So this is everything that I wanted to discuss in terms of the material today, right? So what we have talked about today again includes number one, how do we nest React components? We have seen this, right? So for the home page, we have 5 components, one under the other. Then the next topic was passing values as props. We have seen this as well. How do we pass values? Well, we use props. The parent component can pass values down to the child component. Remember, using props, you can't do the other way around. Child can't pass a value back to parent. That's another way to do it. We'll talk about that later. For now, we have seen how do we pass values down to the child components from the parent component, right? Then the next thing that we have is linking with router. We have also seen this in detail. So we need to install the React Router DOM package for this. And then we use browser router. We use uh, the next thing is routes, and then router and link. These are 4 things from the router package that we require to get this to work, right? And finally, we have now come to our questions. So let's quickly take up these questions one by one. Again, as always, you can put the answers in the chat, and I'll give you a minute to think about them. And then what we'll do is I'll just recap the code that we have seen already, right? Just to quickly, just show you what is going on. If you style parent and child, as long as they are different styles, both of them will show up. So for example, if you see our setup here, in the parent, we are making it flex, right? So if we check the about, we are making the parent as a flex box. So that is also working. And then within the child, we are styling the image. This is also working, right? So we are able to see both the styles as long as they don't contradict. So if you are styling the same thing in both places, then the child style will be given more preference because it is coming later. Again, sequential approach, right? So the parent component is outside, the child component is inside. So we use the child style that gets more preference. So if both parent and child style the same thing, then the child will get preference. Example, if I just change the color to red, right here, then it should change everything to red. You can see the heading and the paragraph both become red. Link needs to be styled separately, so that's a different story. But if we give another color to the heading itself inside the child, so here, if I just copy style and change the color to say yellow, then yellow will get preference and yellow will show up, as you can see, right? So the child style will override the parent style, as long as it's the same style contradicting. Otherwise, both will show up. So if the parent and child style different things, then both styles will be applied. because there is no contradiction between the two, right? So yes, I hope that answers the question. And yes, that brings us to the final three questions that we have as always. Here is the first one. So take a minute, think about it, and then put what you think is the correct answer in the chat. Okay, so the correct answer here is option two, right? We use the link tag. We have used this a lot of times. So yes, route is used to create the path, but link is used to create a clickable link, right? Route does not give us a clickable link. So if you remember, or if you see here, the question talks about clickable links. It does not talk about path. So link is the correct answer. Perfect. Let's move to the second question then. Here is the second question. So again, take a minute, think about it, and then let's discuss. Okay, so the correct answer here is option one, right? Props dot value. This is what we use because again, we have used props dot name, props dot image URL, props dot LinkedIn URL. We have already seen this example in code as well. If you see in the team member, right? Props dot name, props dot position. So props dot value, that's the correct syntax, right? So option one is the correct option. Perfect. Then the next thing is the third question for you. So you can answer this as well. Then I'll take more questions if there are any in the chat. Right. So in this case, we have option one, right? That's the correct option because again, we have done this as well, right? We are passing in values like this. If you can see, so again, we are passing in name equal to position equal to company equal to. This is the syntax. So I think option one matches that syntax exactly because we have equal to and the value, right? So option one here is the correct option. Perfect. There is one question in the chat. If you have any more questions, please put them in the chat, but I'll just pick one from Arvind here. So why we cannot use the index.html? You can use index.css, Arvind, no problem. We are already using it. If you see, we have index.css here. So whatever you style you write here will be applied to the project. So it is not like you cannot use index.css. You can use index.css. And we are also using index.html. Without index.html, nothing will work. So if I just remove this file, our React application will be useless because what we are doing is we are effectively modifying this HTML using JavaScript. Right? So it is basically the index.html file only, which is getting everything done. Right. So yes, we use both. Of course, we use both as you can see. Perfect. So again, today we have talked about a lot of different things, right? We have started creating multiple components in React. We have started seeing the routing in React. Then we have also seen how to pass values between components as props. And we have also seen how to nest them together, right? So something like achieving a proper web page structure, something like this. So in the next session, what we're going to do is we are going to build a mini project based on this. And then I'll introduce you to the concept of something called hooks in React. Now, of course, we are not going to cover all hooks. There are so many hooks available, but we'll cover the three, four most widely used hooks. So we'll talk about use state, use effect, and a couple of other hooks as well. So we'll start with a project in the next session. I'll come with an output. We'll try to replicate that output, right, by putting all the concepts together so that we understand how everything that we have discussed so far works together. And then we'll move to the next concept, which is hooks. Hooks are a very important part of React, right? Without them, a lot of what React can actually do will not happen. Again, quickly coming to the project update. So like I said in the beginning of the session as well, I have been informed by the team that the group links and the project abstracts will be shared by today. Right? So the team has already started sharing them. So hopefully by the end of the day, they are sent out to everybody. So please check your emails later tonight. Please make sure you're on the WhatsApp groups for your respective college. There will be an update on that as well. So again, please make sure you check your groups or your emails later tonight, right? Like later after a few, like after an hour or so. And hopefully you should have received the links by now, like the group links and the abstracts by then. No, Arvind, we created the components folder just to keep it organized. We can put everything in the source folder, but it becomes very complicated because we have 5, 10, 15 different things, right? So we organize it neatly by the component folder. So within components, we then create home, about, and we keep those components neatly organized over there. Again, for people who are asking the topic name, that's why the slide is on the screen. You can see the topic name, React.js routing and props. Okay, that's the topic name for today, right? So yes, with that, I think that is it for this particular session. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. I hope React is making sense now. And again, when we create the mini project in the next session, hopefully it makes a lot more sense then. Also remember, Friday is the deadline to submit the JavaScript assignment, after which you will be given a React assignment. So on Friday, I will share the third assignment link. That assignment will be on React. Okay, so please make sure you submit your HTML and JavaScript assignments. So there have been two assignments that have been given to you. Please submit them by Friday, right? And on Friday, I will give you the third assignment, which will be based on React, right? Perfect. So that is it for this one. Thank you so much, you guys, for attending. And let's continue with the next one. Again, so I think there's one quick question on YouTube Live, which is in React folder getting only package.json. So again, I think you're writing the wrong command there. The command is create React app. If you use npm init, which is for Express, then you will get package.json. We'll talk more about Express later next week. But yes, so the command is npx create React app and then the folder name. So that's the setup. Again, if Zoom is not opening, it's not a problem, you guys. As long as you are here, you can access everything, and you can also, uh, you know, um, basically attend the session. So even if Zoom doesn't open, no problem. We are sharing the feedback link here also and feedback link on Zoom also. So yes, make sure you guys fill the feedback in. That's it for the day. Have a great day. See you guys on Friday sharp at 6 o'clock. So yes, work on the assignment by then, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.